May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Real Gaijin, unveiling the real Japan, an American expat's inside look. Now it's time for another story from the Read My Lips series of podcasts. Summarized podcast.
Once again, my name is Mark Kennedy. I'm the host of the Real Gaijin podcast as Substack. And tonight we are going to do something very different, and I'm very excited about it. On the screen, you can see my guest, Kristi Volchek. You want to say hello, Kristi?
Hey everyone. Hey America. Good morning.
Okay, great. And of course, good afternoon to those of you tuning in from Europe, and a late night for those of you here in Japan. Okay, what Real Gaijin is supposed to be doing normally is we interview people that are resident foreigners, full-timers here, lifers like me. But today, we are absolutely aware that not everyone comes to Japan forever. Some are just here on a shorter stay, but it's part of a global workcation, whatever you want to say it. But essentially, digital nomads are finding Japan is a really cool place to work for a while, at least do their own thing. And tonight, our time in Japan, we have somebody's actually doing that right now in Japan. And she's only going to be here for a few more days before she goes to her next destination. So this is Kristi Volchek, whom I met online. Kristi, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? I understand you're from Belarus.
Yeah, that's right. I was born and grew up in Belarus. But I would say I was always feeling that I will eventually leave Belarus, partly because my grandmother, she was Polish. So I was aware of something that is called Karta Polaka or Pol's card. That kind of simplifies to get a residentship first in Poland and then a citizenship in Poland. So even when I was in Belarus, I still was considering that I should probably go to Poland or probably UK or somewhere else in Europe. So I would say I always had this dream of traveling and living outside of my home country. And yeah, the last 5 years, actually, before starting my digital nomad journey this January, I spent in Poland and I got my citizenship. So now I'm also a Polish citizen that which actually allows me to be in Japan on 90 days visa-free stay.
That's the key. I got it. All right. Now, you're calling today from Fukuoka, right?
Yeah, I'm currently in Fukuoka, and most of my stay in Japan I spent in Fukuoka, and it's a wonderful city.
Okay, good. Well, we want to hear more about that in just a minute, but let's back up for a second. So you moved to Poland, you became a Polish citizen, member of the EU, and then you lived there with your partner for a while, right? And what were you doing in Poland?
Basically, when I was still in Belarus, I was working as a marketer. But when I moved to Poland, I started freelancing, and I realized freelancing as a marketer and non-native speaker is a bit tough spot to be in. So I switched my career together with moving to a new country. Do not recommend, by the way. Guys, it's better to separate those activities.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, basically, I started freelancing as a designer. And that's where my career took off. I became a designer. I gained my first clients. Then, for some time, while living in Poland, I was working full time as a senior product designer for international startups. And then, basically, the last year, when we realized that we want to leave Poland, I went back to freelancing again because it gives much more flexibility in whatever plans we may have. Yeah, career-wise, I was preparing since last year, and the same, I would say, the preparation to become digital nomads is real. You need to do a lot of steps, especially like we've been living in Poland for 5 years. We had a lot of stuff that needs to be solved. We even despite being quite minimalistic, we still have something like even a hair dryer or something like that, you're not throwing it away. You need to find a new home for furniture, for some plants and things like that.
So you essentially literally sold everything, and then you actually didn't come right to Japan right away. You went to Thailand, is that right?
Yeah, we started our nomading with Thailand. We spent 2 months in Bangkok. And then basically in Bangkok, we realized that we really wanted always to go to Japan. And then probably we should not delay our dreams. It was always kind of a goal, but we originally thought that we will explore Southeast Asia a bit more before going to Japan. But then we just hurried up and it didn't disappoint to go to Fukuoka. It just it's much better than I expected. I would say it's much better. Everything you imagined is just much better in Japan.
Well, that's great. Let me just back up again. When you say designer, what exactly are you designing?
So basically, as a digital designer, I do websites, mobile apps, but also because when you start in freelancing, your kind of like line of services is getting broader because people will just request something more. So I'm also doing newsletters and branding design and any graphics. And basically, whenever my clients need something, I will just learn, adapt, and try to help them as much as possible.
That's great. And when you say clients, are most of your clients located all over the world, or are they specifically in one geography, or how do you keep in
Uh,
touch with them?
I would say majority of my clients are from either United States or Canada. I have also a few from Australia and sometimes from Europe, but it's more rare.
Interesting. So, where you are now and when you were back in Bangkok, I imagine communication with your clients in Australia must have been relatively easy. But now you're separated by what, 17 hours to the West Coast, for example?
Yeah, it's about like, yeah, some of my clients are 16 hours behind or me being 16 hours ahead. So it's a bit more challenging. So I would say being in Japan is not very helpful time zone wise. It's a big kind of like, I would say if you're not a freelancer, if you're working remotely, it would be a huge problem to follow your American schedule, for example. But for me, it's a bit more flexible. I don't have that many calls with my clients. So if we have like a weekly call, and I mostly prefer schedule it for late evenings my time. So it will be an early morning for America or Canada, making it like easier for morning people and also easier for me because I'm not a morning person.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And then maybe also stepping back, big picture, along with your partner. I mean, what is the overall plan? Are you going to do this for years and years and just keep going around the world, or I mean, what's the big plan here?
um, well, I would say the best part of being a digital nomad is not having a big plan.
Ah,
um, so,
okay.
so this is the best part. But overall, I would say originally our idea was moving to Australia. My partner, he grew up in Australia, so he's Australian citizen. And when originally we've been preparing to move into Australia, we even applied for partner visa here. So
Oh,
we're still waiting. It takes like a couple of years. So I don't know
oh,
when I will get it.
oh,
uh, that's a bit, yeah, the process. But yeah, when we've been preparing for it, we realized that probably actually we are not ready to just like move to another country and
ah,
put just set up here and stay in a single country. And then eventually this idea of moving to Australia somehow became an idea to be digital nomads and actually travel the world first before settling down in a single country.
ah.
Um,
And how do you
yeah.
determine where to go? I know we're backtracking a little bit, but like your first stop was Bangkok, but why did you choose to go to Bangkok first?
With Bangkok, it was easy. Like Bangkok is like the biggest digital nomad hub. Everyone goes there. It's like
Oh,
the easiest one to start, the language wise, infrastructure wise, community wise. Like there are so many guides, information, and everything about Bangkok, and so much social media promotion that it may feel like it's a paradise for digital nomads. But
uh,
it depends also on your preferences. Bangkok is a very big and busy city. There is no place for nature. So if you're more into city life and if you love bars, partying, Bangkok will be the perfect place. But if you're like us who wants to explore the nature, go for hikes, live close by a park, I would say Japan is much more suitable. So with Bangkok, we didn't have much thinking. It's basically the biggest hub for digital nomads, the most explored. But then when we been in Bangkok, we also were quite unlucky. It was a burning season in January and
oh,
February. So the air quality was just terrible. Basically, we originally thought of doing Muay Thai and, having some more physical activities in Bangkok. But with such pollution, we realized, we don't want to breath in more
uh,
than
oh,
than
no.
needed. So yeah, we in our first week in Bangkok, we bought air purifier. So
I got it. Okay.
that
And then
level.
all
Yeah.
right. That's pretty serious.
Um,
So, well, thank you though for explaining that because that wouldn't, I mean, for someone that doesn't know a lot about digital nomads, I wouldn't have known that. So I know you told me before that Japan had always been on your bucket list of places to travel, but Japan's a big country too. Most foreign visitors go right to Tokyo or sometimes spend a lot of time in Kyoto. You chose Fukuoka. Why?
yeah. um, I mean, there are probably three main reasons why we decided to go to Fukuoka. The first one is to avoid crowds because we've heard of over tourism happening in
Mm,
Tokyo and especially in Kyoto, in Osaka, and we didn't want to add on to this problem to make it
uh,
even harder for locals. So we were looking for something less popular, more authentic, but not too small because you don't want to be the only outsider in the whole countryside. So you want a medium-sized kind of like medium-sized city with a good infrastructure, probably car-free, good public transportation. Um, and yeah, Fukuoka was checking all the boxes. And another reason when we were looking more like geography wise, we realized that Fukuoka is really, really close to nature. Like a
mm,
few stations, just jump into subway and you're in a forest or here are the mountains, or if you want to go to see sea, or how in Japanese it's umi, it's there for you. So nature wise and like how it's hikeable, how it's beautiful, it's a great choice. And also a quick tip for someone who's looking into Airbnbs or apartments:
mm.
getting Airbnb next to the park is a life hack. Whenever you want to have just a nice break or a lunch outside, just going there, looking at the nature, touching the grass is amazing. Um, and the third point, specifically for Fukuoka, so not every mid-sized city has it, is the digital nomad community. There is a project called Caliph Fukuoka, and every year they have quite a big conference for digital nomads. And we saw the video from the last year conference and we were like, oh my God, Fukuoka looks amazing. It's really interesting city. It has so many events. It has startups culture. It has tech culture. And then we thought this should be a good city for digital nomads.
Those are great reasons. And a long time ago, I actually, my first exposure to Kyushu was spending a year in Fukuoka. So I completely understand why you would have chosen that place. Okay. So walk us through, how do you get situated as a digital nomad? I mean, now you're in Bangkok investigating, okay, our next destination is Fukuoka. What next? What do you do to find where to go?
I would say I would say the hardest part of being a digital nomad so far is looking for accommodations.
Mm,
So it's always challenging. You always need to plan it a bit upfront, and we are not good at planning much upfront because also like changes of plan. You plan something 2-3 months ahead, basically.
mm,
Um, and yeah, looking for accommodation is quite challenging, especially in Japan, especially in Fukuoka. There are not so many choices. But whenever we decide in which next location, right now we realized that we should not go just for like, best recommended location for by other nomads like we did with Bangkok. But we realized we should follow our preferences. So far our goal is kind of to spend as much time as possible between Japan and Taiwan. Um, Japan because of culture, because of how much we're interested in Japanese um, people and culture and country and history. It's just amazing. I'm not saying you need to be a big anime fan or you know
mm.
or be passionate about Japanese language. Even if you just really enjoy to learn more about authentic Japan arts or culture, it's amazing to be here. And Taiwan also because of culture, unique position, and basically in Taiwan you're also getting exposed to Chinese culture but in a bit more friendlier Western way than going to China, mainland China, where like there is no internet. And yeah, basically, so far it's kind of like our main goal for the next year or so is to span between those two countries.
Okay, great. And now you touched on a couple of things I'd like to ask you a little bit more about. First of all, let's go back to accommodations. So you mentioned briefly Airbnb near a park is a life hack. That sounds like good advice. Okay, so you're relying basically on Airbnb to find the accommodations?
I would say, yeah, that are not so many alternatives. I know some nomads are also using Facebook Marketplace, and in
Mm,
more kind of like digital nomad popular places like Bangkok, there are more options, including like different websites and so on. But I would say generally in many countries, and especially in Japan, you kind of like Airbnb is the only option, especially if you're a digital nomad. Because, like today, I need to have a call sometimes with my clients, and I don't want to go to co-working places or look for a co-working that is open at 11 p.m. or midnight. So basically you have a bit different standards. You need a flat, you need sometimes to cook at home because you're not just like a tourist who can eat out every day 3 times a day, or just like hanging out for fun. You also need to work, so having at least a table, a chair, some kind of workspace in your Airbnb as emergency is really important. So basically Airbnb is probably the only option for now that is safe option and easy to get option.
okay, well, good. Now, of course, you speak English perfectly. I imagine I'm going to go on a limb here. You might have just rudimentary Japanese language experience at this point. Are you trying to learn a little bit Japanese?
I'm a trying. I would say even like with some basic phrases, it's much easier. And also there is a difference between being a digital nomad and a resident when it comes to language barrier. Because as a digital nomad, you're not facing that much language barrier. Or better to say, the complexity is different. Like as a resident, you probably need to buy a car or rent an apartment that requires to engage with Japanese law, a different documentation, and things like that. Or like even like medical health insurance when you becoming a resident, that's totally different complexity. In that sense, digital nomads closer to tourists because our language barriers are mostly connected to go to restaurants,
Okay.
shopping, hobbies, sports, nothing too complex. Basically, just a few phrases, a few understanding of like if in Konbini people asking you, "Do you need a bag?" and saying no, thank you, it is
Ah,
pretty much enough. So I'd say in the beginning, when you're staying like a couple of months in the country, the language barrier is not so strong. And also, as digital nomads, we stick to sports and communities that are more English friendly by default.
Oh,
So, for example, if you go to CrossFit in Fukuoka, they speak perfect English. So you don't even experience the barriers that much, the language barrier.
okay, well, that's good. So back on accommodation, that might be another reason why Airbnb is good, since you can do everything in English. Now, a lot of Japanese people, when they look for long-term rentals, like multi-week rentals, there's something called a weekly mansion in Japanese. I don't know if the other sites, I guess I've seen, are all in Japanese, but there are some alternatives to Airbnb, but they're probably all pretty much local in
Um,
Japanese.
Yeah, in Japan, I would say they're pretty much local. And also for gaijins or outsiders, they require resident card. So even if we went through the efforts of translating the website,
Mm.
figuring out some payments and everything, it's still not an option for digital nomads or like tourists without a resident card. And it's a bit
Huh.
different in Tokyo or Osaka. There are some platforms that are offering accommodations for
Mm.
digital nomads at longer stays around months. But unfortunately, in Fukuoka, there is nothing like that yet.
Ah,
but
there's an
but
opportunity.
yeah, I think like it would be amazing if someone a
Huh.
business idea, by the way. If
Yeah,
you're planning
it's a good
to
idea.
apply for a startup visa, probably you should come to Japan and start accommodation business. That would be challenging, I think. But yeah, basically not so many options in Fukuoka specifically. If you will be nomading in Tokyo or Osaka, it will be a bit more easier, both language-wise and accommodation-wise.
Okay, got it. A couple of other basic things. So let's just cover briefly the legal status. So you're basically coming here without a specific visa because you're a member of the EU, just as a tourist, essentially. And you're working, but not working in Japan. You're working for your clients, checking emails and doing things, but you're essentially here for tourism.
Yeah, basically, I would say the visa-free entrance is 90 days, and it specifies that your goal should not be business or money related, which is
Mhm.
not. We are here in Japan because we love Japan, and we just happen to work here as well. And also, according to Japanese law, you will become the tax resident only after spending 183 days in Japan, which is also not happening because you can do around 2 visa runs per year for 90 days. So most likely your biggest timeline in a year will be 180 days. Um, so there is no chances for me to become a tax resident in Japan. And also, I don't work with Japanese clients, which means I don't have any Japanese sourced income. And because I was living in Poland, my business is based in Poland. I have a Polish company. So I'm something that is called a sole trader in Poland, but it's a bit different in Poland. So in Poland, sole trader is like a company of one. So it's
Okay.
considered like a serious business, even if it's owned just by one person. So accounting and everything is a bit challenging, but yeah, once you have it already, it's easier not to change your business setup when you especially travel and have so many other challenges in everyday life.
Mhm. Got it. All right. So there's some other practical things I'm sure a lot of our listeners are curious about. And by the way, feel free to post any questions. We will definitely address them. We're trying to keep track of everything on our mobile phones to scroll through this while doing the video, but we will address the questions. Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Housekeeping. We will be releasing a recording of this. Give me about 24 hours to do that, but that will be out soon. One other basic thing that comes to mind is insurance, like health insurance. What happens if you have an accident or get sick? What do you do?
Well, there are plenty of travel insurance is available. I'm pretty sure. I know that American nomads, they prefer to have American insurance because it somehow simplifies process on their end. In our case, we're using just Genki. Genki is like a travel insurance specifically for more like digital nomads, which is just a standard coverage. So anything like more like, when there is some incident happening, you don't want to end up with like a huge bill. So more like a backup. And also, surprisingly, by the way, in Fukuoka, we recently discovered that there is international medical support center that you can call at any time of the day. It's available in 20 languages. And then
Oh,
they will guide you through Japanese medical house and hospitals. They will call them. They will explain where you need to go, how to book things. They will translate for you whatever doctor is saying, all by phone, available 24 hours a day. So
and is this a service for a fee or is this free?
It's free, absolutely free.
Free.
It's by
Wow.
Fukuoka government. So the
Oh,
government office decided to provide those services for any international people in Fukuoka. So yeah, you can,
wow.
I was surprised myself. It didn't come to my mind to even Google it because I didn't expect it. But then I saw um, one of my online friends who is also happened to live in Fukuoka, she posted that she was using this service, and I was like, what? What the service? So yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I did not expect Japan to be so international friendly wise. So plus
That's
one
great.
to Fukuoka.
That's great. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, Fukuoka is certainly making a name for itself as a startup capital in Japan. Terrific. One other basic thing, you mentioned before that sometimes you work from your apartment or flat. I can understand that, but when we talked before, you also told me you find it difficult to do everything from essentially the hotel room. Where do you go to go check your email? And when you're not sightseeing, where do you go to actually get a little bit of work done?
I would say in Japan there are plenty of places you can go to, and there is a huge culture of a third place. So, because apartments in Japan are quite small, I would even say tiny, um, even with a table, even with a working setup, it's getting quite frustrating to spend too much time in such a tiny apartment. So, this culture of third places helps a lot because a lot of cafes. They absolutely welcome people with laptops. They have chargers, they have free Wi Fi. You can find locals working there with laptops, even taking calls, which is crazy for me because, like, when you travel in Europe and someone has a call in a cafe, oh my God, no, no, people gonna hate you. And here I was really surprised. People are just taking their calls in a cafe, drinking coffee. And also, I would say, even in like coffee places, they don't expect you to order too much. You can just grab a coffee and spend here like 1 hour or two working. No one will bother you or even like look at you there. They're used to it. Like people come to those third places to spend time outside of their apartments. Um, and on top of it, there are so many co-working places in Fukuoka and in Japan in general. So specifically designed for work. And even some of them are free. So obviously the paid one is an option and they would be very well organized, that there will be super fast Wi-Fi. There mostly will be drop-ins, so you can just
Hmm.
come by, join and work for a day or for an hour if you need just like to spend some time on a meeting. And the one we went to called the From, and big advantage, they have free snacks all day, so you can eat as much as you want, all the snacks.
All right.
uh,
So
yeah.
they,
Uh,
what
the,
you told me about another one too that's free,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The From is a paid one, but there are
Okay.
two free co-workings that we've been. I know there are more, but those two we visited. It's the one is called the Dot. And basically, it's organized by Oita Prefecture to attract younger people to work in Oita. And you can just like register online and then work here from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh,
Like just get in one
okay.
drink and you're fine to go. And the other one is Artist Cafe Fukuoka, that is originally designed for like creative people, helping them to find a place to, think about their art and everything. The situation is even simpler, no registration, nothing.
Oh,
Um, you just order a coffee and spend the whole day there.
that's great for free.
Yeah, for free. Yeah, I was shocked too. I'm not used to having free community spaces or co-working spaces. That's crazy.
Wow. So, and I know you're about ready to depart for Taipei. Have you already kind of investigated similar options there?
Yeah, a bit. I would say in Taipei there is this thing that is called a working cafe. So it's a cafe that expects people to work there,
Oh,
specifically to work. So they have like a schedule of drinks you need to order, like coffee every 2 hours or something like that. But
oh,
the cafe
wild.
itself is free. So yeah, basically they're very organized about it. um, and yeah, basically in Taipei, it looks like situation is pretty the same. There are so many co-working spaces and cafes. Obviously, we would need to double check and explore it, but so far it looks promising.
Amazing. Okay, so now you've been in Fukuoka for a few weeks. Have you made some local friends or at least met up with other fellow digital nomads?
Actually, we've been in Fukuoka for almost 3 months already.
Okay.
Yeah, our visa expires on June 16. So that's why we are leaving on June 15 to Taipei. But yeah, it's almost 3 months in Fukuoka. And I would say community-wise, it's very welcoming city. Locals are very open-minded to connect. There's also a weekly meetup for digital nomads happening
Oh,
every Wednesday, where you can just like join, spend some time, talk to other digital nomads or locals who are helping digital nomads to find places. And it was amazing place to get recommendations for food, travels, exploring Kyushu in general. So really, really good community. And in general, we realized that going to different sports help you to
mhm.
find people. Um, Especially if you're more interested like in, I would say, more like international sports or something like CrossFit, that is basically very American sport. So like the program in Japan for the classes in English, so it's not typical for like even other sports in Japan. But basically found a lot of interesting people on CrossFit classes we've been joining. I also saw there's bilingual yoga classes happening in parks. So hopefully I will join before leaving. But basically, through sports, through events, through meetups, there are a lot of opportunities to meet and connect. And not to forget to mention Hakata Mingle. It's more like a language exchange event. They also have like weekly events for people to meet. Someone who's learning Japanese can go and practice with locals. Locals are learning English and looking for, I don't want to say victims, but basically for someone to speak in English. So it's like a lot of fun. And those gatherings are quite big. So last we attended was like 70 people or something.
Oh, that is a lot of people. Okay. And then, by the way, you're traveling with your partner, with whom you've been living for a while, but do other digital nomads usually go as a pair like you two, or do they go by themselves? I mean, what's normal or anything?
I would say we are quite unique situation in terms of that we are both we are freelancers, both of us, so we both can easily become nomads. It's quite rare for a couple to
Mm,
be so ready to be digital nomads. I would say majority of nomads we are meeting are solo travelers. So yeah, basically majority are solo travelers and mostly couples who are nomading as well. They're basically will be someone like running a business together, or more like a family business, or one of them will have been a founder or business owner that allows the other person not to work. So I would say it's quite unique, for boss to be able to just, deroot yourself and go travel the world.
It's wonderful. And your fellow digital nomads that you meet up at all these places, I are there people of all different ages and backgrounds? Are there old guys like me, for example, or mostly younger generation Z people?
I would say in Japan, it's more older people, like 30 plus, like us.
Oh, that's
30
all.
plus. I mean, Japan is still quite expensive to get. So the tickets to fly to Japan, the financial barrier makes it harder for anyone below 30 to travel to Japan. So I would say in Japan, it was mostly 30 plus. And in general, I would say digital nomads who are more like into slow travel is someone who is 30, 40 plus. Younger nomads, they are more fast paced. They are changing cities every week and so forth. But
Oh, oh,
um, even though we are new to nomading, we are not new to traveling,
yeah.
and we knew that we will not enjoy changing city every week. Um, we love to settle down a bit, explore, um, to understand the locals, to learn more, to kind of like become part of the city or a place we are
Mm,
living in.
got it. By the way, give us a sense of like your day to day. I mean, obviously every day is a little different, but you said you're a night person. But when you wake up ultimately in the morning, I assume you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, it's
What?
still morning.
Okay, good. What do you do? How do you plan your day?
I would say it's pretty close to any working residence. So we work normal weekdays, Monday to Friday. We have our weekends for exploring and traveling. And basically, sticking to a standard schedule helps a lot because you
Mm,
are in the same schedule as everyone else around. So when you go to sport classes in the evening, there will be other people who join in then after their work. If you go explore a city on weekends, the vibe will be different. People are relaxed, enjoying the sun, enjoying the weekend. So following kind of like the regular world schedule, working people schedule is really helpful. Even despite the fact that we are quite flexible, we can work whenever
mm,
we want, we still try to stick to a schedule and have a routine. So basically, whenever we um, start in a new city, the first week is chaotic. So the
mm,
first week is like really hard to focus on work because we're trying to understand our location, where to buy food, where to go to restaurants, where to work. So the first week, whenever we end up in a new city, is exploration. So I'm trying not to plan too much work on this week because I know that will be not my point of attention. And then after that week, we already understand like a bit of like what's going on in daily life, and we can focus on work a bit more. So in the morning, I just trying to prioritize my tasks. What I want to finish today is like my must-have tasks, and then kind of like task it additional or nice to have or something that it would be nice to do if I have time. And yeah, the motivation part is also challenging sometimes, but in Japan it was quite easy because whenever we start working, we normally go to a co-working space or to a cafe, and it's like going to an office. Other people that are working, so it's very motivational. You're surrounded by
mm.
people working. You're also feeling the vibe. You can stay concentrated on your work because Japanese people, they are quite workaholics, but it has a positive effect when you try to focus on your work.
I got it. Now, a couple of friends and also somebody that I interviewed not too long ago refurbished an older Japanese home, like over 100 years old, and has made it into an Airbnb and is trying to have some visitors come to work or maybe to write. Is that kind of environment, even though it might be not like a co-work space, would that be of interest to a digital nomad who wants some quiet time?
I would say it depends on the nomads. So for example, also it depends on like what project you're working on or what client or what type of work you do. So sometimes you need just to lock somewhere
Mm,
and work hard for a couple of weeks. Then probably this is a perfect opportunity because you have nothing
mm,
else to go and nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. You just lock yourself in the house with a Wi-Fi and you get things done. But for example, for someone, especially like without a car, if you're just like traveling, it's much easier to be in the city. There are sports, there are entertainment, there is infrastructure, and there are people to connect with because the big part of being digital nomad is connect with locals and connect with other digital nomads. That's what makes this lifestyle so interesting compared to just traveling without any kind of depth in your travels.
that makes sense. Now, we already have quite a few people that have tuned in, so thank you for joining us. Feel free to put any question that you have in the chat, and we'll try to get to it right away. In the meantime, another thing that I imagine most of our viewers would be curious about is what kind of advice would you have for people that aspire to do this? Maybe they have a little bit of paid time off, or even if they don't, but they are going to be earning as they go. What would you recommend they do to prepare and then actually go on this journey?
I would say you need to be prepared to pack your entire life into single luggage. You see behind me is two of our luggages. That's all. That's my life is packed here. So you need to be quite ready to become minimalist in your life, to become a digital nomad. Um, if you want to be like a full digital nomad, so people. Someone without a base. So we don't have a base. We don't have a flat or anything where we can store our things or belongings. So if you're going full digital nomad mode, you need to be ready to be quite minimalist and also to be adaptable. I would say the biggest kind of feature you need is adaptability because you won't be able to find your favorite bread or your favorite milk or your favorite food in every country you go. And food is the simplest example. If you've been eating eggs for breakfast for your entire life and suddenly, there is no
Oh,
eggs available, um, it's something that requires adaptability to local cuisine, to local culture, and yeah, also like exploring and learning the local culture to blend in, to fit in, to avoid any disrespect toward locals because you want to be a good presentation of your country or digital nomads in general.
that makes a lot of sense. What about somebody who's contemplating, thinking about doing this, but isn't quite ready to? I mean, the initial jump is probably takes quite a bit of courage. What would you do to encourage someone to actually do this, go take action?
I would say we live only once. Like, and um, from what I remember when I was a child and I watched this show telling about the biggest regrets, one of the biggest regrets of people dying is not living the lives they wanted. So I realized being true to yourself and live the life you want, especially if you really want it, then there is no good time to start it. There will be always challenges. There will be always not the best timing. The work is not perfect. Your income is not perfect. Your setup is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But how long will you wait?
Mm.
That's a question I suggest to ask.
Okay, well that's good advice. To just go ahead and do it because there's never going to be a better time than now, basically, right?
There are no, there are no better timing. And yeah, basically, the older you're getting, the harder some things are getting. The more established you have, the more routine you have, the more community, friends, work, schedule, and it's harder to break it because those patterns are so comfortable. You know, you will go home and they're your favorite Netflix show. Yeah, digital nomading. Yeah, sounds nice, but there's a new episode. So I would say breaking this comfort probably is also scary. And obviously, it's scary for everyone. It's not like digital nomads are different type of people, and we are not afraid. It's just the reward is bigger. The reward is bigger. The things you're getting, experiences you're getting, and the quality of life you're getting is totally different. In like since January, I feel like I've spent years traveling. My kind of like the way I see my life is much longer now than actually. The time slowed down compared to like when you just settle down, you have a routine, and sometimes days disappear, weeks disappear, then months disappear. But when you have a daily new experience, learn something new every day, the time feels long, really long.
That that's interesting. Now, I noticed that you have been journaling or like trying to record some of your experiences, not just work related, I mean, just for fun too and travel, on your Substack, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I started as more like an experiment because um, I wanted to kind of like have a journal of my travels, but I felt like too much pressure having like a blog about it because you need to write entire post every time or produce content or create some kind of promise. While with notes on Substack, I know I'm not using Substack the right way, so sorry to other Substack folks here. But I find it very enjoyable just to post a photo and give a bit of background story what's going on here, or just share those daily things that probably quite boring for Japanese people, but really surprised me because it's still new to me. It's fresh and it's so different. Um, like a small example from today, I was again shocked by umbrellas because it's a bright, sunny day. It's like such a nice weather. I'm trying to expose myself to sun. It may not look like, but I tried. um, I'm not very good at tanning, but yeah. Basically, I'm enjoying the sun, and there are so many people hiding from the sun under umbrellas, and I'm realizing how a big of gap of understanding a good weather we have. Because for me, umbrella is rainy day. You need to hide yourself from from the rain, from the drops. But for Japanese people, they are really cautious about their skin quality, so they hide their skin from the sun. Especially, I would say women, they tend to have more umbrellas.
Correct. So I see. So you're recording all these little things that you're noticing just by walking around.
Yeah, it's nothing special. It's easy to post, but I noticed a lot of people find it interesting. And yeah, because it's so different from your comfort zone or from your culture. And the more things like that happening, the more you learn of other cultures, the more interesting it gets, because now when you have like a bigger understanding of global culture, you can imagine this global citizen, a person who speaks multiple languages, travels multiple countries, and lives in between governments and countries.
Well, that's you. Okay.
Hopefully.
And now I'm curious about some really interesting places you've discovered so far, but just going back on your general plans, you're about ready to move on to Taipei and then possibly come back to Fukuoka in the fall. Is that right?
Yeah, basically this October, another Koli Fukuoka will happen. So we want to
Ah,
go back and join the conference.
mm,
But since we're slow travelers, we will go there for 3 months, obviously, not just for the conference. But yeah, basically, so far the plan is to spend summer in Taipei, which is going to be a bit tough.
oh,
It's plus 40 there in summer and yeah, humid. So I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not very good with hot weather, but I'm also looking forward to explore Taipei and this mix of Japanese and Chinese influences and the new culture that was born from it. But yeah, basically after the humid and hot Taipei, we will be back to Fukuoka from September to November.
okay, great. Well, when you come back in September, it might be pretty hot and humid here too, but later on in the autumn is really beautiful. What's next
You know,
besides?
sorry,
Yeah,
sorry
go
for
ahead. No.
interrupting. You reminded me. Um, so everyone was telling me that like it will be so hot in May in Japan. You will be dying. There will be so humid and hot plus 30. And it was such a cold May.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
true.
such a cold May. I was like, I did not expect Japan to be such a cold country in spring. Especially because
Well,
when you look from outside on sakura season and girls in dresses posing next to beautiful trees, you expect it's really warm, but it's like plus 12 or 7 degrees, guys. So don't trust the images. It's
okay.
quite
Well,
cold.
guess what? Well, you're going to be coming from Taipei, so it's all relative. But that sounds good. What after you go through Taipei, Japan, maybe back and forth a few times? Where else are you planning to do this?
Basically, we are more interested in exploring Asia because the culture and people and how different it is. So that's probably our area of interest. And as I mentioned, the best plan is no plan. So I
Yeah.
would
Okay.
say we don't have like a big significant goal or something like that. I know eventually there is a chance we will get tired of being digital nomads and hopping between places, and probably we would consider to settle down. And probably if we will ever try to settle down, I would be really happy to do it in Japan. I even took a look at startup visa and how you
Mhm.
can um, get to it. Probably startup visa is one of the best options to start, but also the student visa, just if you want to start living in Japan, it's the best way to by start learning Japanese because it would be really helpful. And yeah, basically throughout my travels, I really hope to learn a bit of Japanese and Chinese because it's also fun to learn languages. And the more you know, the more people you can meet and connect. And my personal small motivation, I really love Japanese grandmas and I want to talk to them, but I don't have vocabulary or I don't have Japanese yet to talk to them because they have so many interesting hobbies. Like they've been cooking omurice for 20 years. I just want to know how it feels to achieve perfection in life. So,
Ah,
uh, yeah, my personal motivation is also to learn languages, and probably if we will settle down, Japan might be the best place to do so.
okay, great. Well, plus you have Australia as another option. Hopefully, that's good. Hey, I'm going to ask another question in just a second, Bob. While I'm doing that, everybody who's online, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat just right at the bottom, I believe, on your screen, and then we'll try to answer them right away. I'm curious, during your almost 3 year visit to Fukuoka, what are some of the really cool places that stand out? Like, I'm guessing you went to Dazaifu, for example. What are some really neat places that you'd recommend?
I would say Ogori Koen is amazing. So it's a park in the middle of the city. It's a green lawn of the city in a way. It's really beautiful, and we were lucky enough to live just next to it. Like we are 5-7 minutes walk away. So like it's just amazing place to be. But also the entire Kyushu is amazing, especially if you will have a driving license, a correct one. Just double check when you get an international driving license that you're getting the correct one, because in our case we did the wrong one, because originally we were going to Thailand and we just checked what's the right one for Thailand. So
Ah,
yeah, so if you want to rent a car in Japan, you need the correct driving license, the international one. And yeah, basically Kyushu itself is really beautiful. You don't need to go even to the most touristic places like Tasaifu. Just going by subway to a random station, have a small walk around the city, going to the beach to walk around and explore the coast life, going to Itoshima. It's a really small, nice place as well. I would highly actually recommend Itoshima. It was a really vibey trip. Even with a bus, it's possible to move around Itoshima. Just make sure you will make it to the last bus, 6 p.m., a bit early to us. um, but yeah, basically, you don't need to seek special touristic attraction. If you're interested in nature, Japan, the architecture, it's just enough to walk around and enjoy the city. And then, yeah, basically going to Dazaifu or Toshima would be a nice highlight on top of it. We also really wanted to explore Kyushu more, hopefully in in the fall, if my partner will get the right driving license, we will
oh,
go around and have more recommendations.
oh, yeah, definitely. Well, as you might recall, I live in Kyushu too, so on the other side of Kyushu from you.
Yeah,
But yes, it's
next
a
to
great
Beppo,
place.
right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
great place to visit. Terrific. Okay, let's check and see if we have any questions. Oh, we have a lot of people joined on the call. Thank you for joining us. But we don't have any specific questions. Okay, you're making me work. Well, we're actually almost up at the end of our time, but I have to say I've been very impressed with our communication so far. You are very professional, and I know you kind of skipped over your professional work life to a certain extent, but you're quite an accomplished designer. You teach design online. I know product design in particular for apps and so forth, all sorts of digital design. So quite an impressive pedigree. Plus, you're doing this all in not your native language, which is pretty amazing, in my opinion. So thank you for joining us today.
It's actually, I would say, teaching in English was my best investment in my English, because when you need to teach on the go, and for example, I was teaching a dribble now, they don't have their courses anymore, but it's quite a long online course. The longest one I was teaching was 24 weeks. So,
Well,
yeah, 24 weeks. I have a weekly 2-hour live session where I need to talk for 2 hours, entertain my students, explain different topics of design, and show something on the go live. Like designing while someone is watching is just terrible. And when you're a mentor, a teacher, and you need to do it professionally, not to embarrass yourself, it's a lot of pressure. So I would say this was the best practice to public speaking, presentation skills, or language skills I ever had.
yeah,
A
well,
life
you
hack.
definitely mastered that. That's terrific. And I imagine that you also speak Polish at this point, right?
Yeah, basically, I learned Polish when I moved to Poland. Um, because I was living there, and originally I was thinking of probably we may stay in Poland. So I was investing into learning the language, and I also, um, yeah, I had to receive a Polish card. It's quite easy. You need a very basic Polish. To just like have an interview with a consul. And then once you received it, you apply for residentship, and it's pretty easy. But if you want to get to citizenship box, you need a B1 level of Polish certification, the government certification exam. So you need to learn grammar properly. You need to be able to speak, to understand, to a certain level. And I would say this level is quite high. It's much easier if you come in from like Russian speaking background because there are a lot of grammar overlap. So at least the concept of Polish grammar is much more clearer. But for example, my partner, despite he speaks Russian, but he grew up in Australia, so he doesn't know Russian grammar or anything like that. So for him, learning Polish and trying to understand Polish grammar was a real challenge because he just was keep asking me like, why it's so complex? Why is this grammar so complex? And when you say him something like, oh, it's the same in Russian, it doesn't help because he doesn't know it. So for anyone like with English background as native language, learning Polish is a huge challenge. So yeah, basically, if you guys planning to apply for, if you have like Polish heritage, if your grandparents were Polish and you were considering to move to Poland and apply for citizenship, better start learning Polish now.
Okay, well, I'll take that under consideration. But in the meantime, now you have to, well, you've worked on Japanese for a little bit, and soon you're going to have to switch over to Mandarin Chinese in just a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even started with learning even the basic of Chinese. My partner did. Because
Oh,
the kanji situation, they're quite the same in Chinese, so it was easier for him to switch. He already learned quite a lot Japanese kanji, so now he's just like s- connecting the dots a bit. But I haven't started with Chinese because also before you leave for another country, you need to do some work up front. So that's my main focus right now because I know the first week in Taipei, I won't be able to really work. So probably like catch up with emails, max,
right.
but no real design work.
This is what you get situated. I see. Great. Well, we are at the end of our time for today. Thank you very much for explaining how you've been there, done that as a digital nomad. I know you just got started in January, but this is very exciting, and we're looking forward to your return to Kyushu, to Fukuoka. Come visit us on the other side of Kyushu when you make it back here. And in the meantime, have a great time in Taipei. And I will put this out in about maybe give it 24 hours or so, and we'll summarize some of the things that Kristi talked about today for aspiring digital nomads, and also put her contact information in the write-up on Substack so you can get in touch on your own if you're interested. Kristi, you want to say anything to our multiple viewers online?
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It was fun sharing a bit of more like personal story rather than just talking about design or professional aspect of it. And secondly, if you considering this lifestyle, just try not to wait too much because the perfect time it's hard to achieve. Probably it will never happen. I'm still not getting it, even after half a year nomading. I'm still don't feel like it's not perfect time to start nomading right now. But yeah, I mean our life is not so long, so enjoying it to the fullest and doing things you enjoy is really important. So probably this is the right time to start or think about what you can do to start.
Great. Well, that is a wonderful way to close this out. And I hope to hear from other people that are inspired by today's discussion. Thank you again. Have a good rest of your day. For those of you joining in the United States, rest of your afternoon for you in Europe, and time to get to bed. Or Kristi's going to start working actually in Japan.
Sleeping.
Okay.
No, no,
We're
no.
going to say good night. Okay. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and or listening to another story from the Read My Lips series of podcasts on Real Gaijin. Tell us what you think and be sure to tune in again next time.